Brock Purdy is one of the most controversial quarterbacks in the entire NFL. Some say he's the next Tom Brady, while others continue to label him as just a system quarterback. On certain plays, for instance, you'll see Purdy flip out of the backside of the pocket and make one of the craziest throws you'll ever see. But he also has elite weapons to rely on. So today we're going to examine Purdy's film against the Jets to see what's really going on. While Purdy doesn't have the biggest arm in the NFL, he still has the ability to challenge defenses vertically. Across the entire NFL, for instance, he currently is top 10 in yards per attempt with 8, and the big reason for this is the gunslinger mentality he plays with. Prior to the start of this play, for instance, Purdy is reading cover 1 with the safety single high in the middle of the field and the corners lined up directly over these wide receivers. And then post-snap, you can see him confirming his read of cover 1 with the single high safety. This indicates to Purdy his primary receiver in Brandon Ayuk is manned up against Michael Carter II. So rather than being conservative and just checking it down to Mason, Purdy understands he has a man beater with Brandon Ayuk running this corner pattern. And then on this throw, you really couldn't ask for more. He has pressure right in his face, and it's like he went over there and placed it in Brandon Ayuk's hands. So even though it fell incomplete, this might have been one of Purdy's better throws of the day. But on a throw he actually completed in a similar way, he was reading prior to the snap, that's cover 3, and he has this wide receiver going on a streak and Kittle coming on the corner pattern. So Purdy has to read 2 defenders on this play to fit in there to George Kittle. First, he has to read this deep third man and make sure he actually carries with this streak pattern. As he does, this is an indicator to Purdy that Kittle will be coming open in the soft spot of the zone, but he still needs to make sure this linebacker and corner aren't dropping far, which he did. And while there was other receivers open on this play, Purdy was able to target the deepest man as he consistently does, highlighting his gunslinger mentality. To go along with this mentality, headed into year 3, it appears Purdy has continued his refinement on his deep ball accuracy. On this rail route for use check, for instance, many quarterbacks would get overexcited at seeing a guy this wide open, but Purdy just places it right on him and nearly gets the touchdown. Another aspect of his game that makes Purdy one of the better quarterbacks across the entire NFL is his ability to process the defense. Prior to the snap, for instance, Purdy is reading cover 2 from this Jets defense, and then post-snap, once it does transition into that, he realizes he has Juwan Jennings coming on an in-breaking route that should beat this. So he has the wherewithal to pass on his checkdowns and pick up 22 on this play. Ultimately, these are the type of things you like to see out of a franchise quarterback. And while I've really focused on Purdy's ability to read the defense prior to the snap, on this play, I want to highlight his post-snap processing. Initially, for instance, Purdy is reading the streak from Brandon Ayuk, goes to George Kittle, but realizes there's the defender underneath and over the top on him, then is able to see on his third read the defender right in the way of his throwing lane. So he's able to come back to his fourth read and actually pick up a pretty sizable gain. Of all downs for a quarterback though, there's no down more valuable than third down, and throughout this Jets game, Purdy excelled here. Prior to this third down play, for instance, Purdy is reading the potential blitz from the Jets defense, an indicator it's most likely cover 1, and then post-snap when the defender does come and the safety rotates over the top, Purdy understands he has a man beater in Brandon Ayuk on this out route. But Purdy doesn't stop there. He throws before Ayuk is even coming out of his break. This not only makes it almost impossible for this corner to cover, but also gives Ayuk the chance to pick up additional yardage. On another third down in this game, once again, you can tell the Jets are bringing the blitz. Purdy is also reading this and identifies his man beater in Juwan Jennings. And then I love how he gets off this ball as soon as he's hitting his back foot. This type of timing is what makes these plays be successful. On all these third down conversions, Purdy routinely shows that he makes smart decisions. He passes up low percentage throws and picks high percentage throws like this check down to Mason or this open throw to Deebo Samuel. And while it's relatively easy to see these pretty smart decisions on third down, I think he carried this out throughout the game, whether it be taking the sack like here where no options were really available or a simple check down. Like on this play action play, Purdy has a defender right in his face, but somehow he's able to get away with the sidearm throw and connect with Deebo Samuel. Arguably his best checkdown though is a play in which he showed off his pocket mobility, first breaking this would-be sack, finding Deebo Samuel for what would seem like a small gain, but actually because Deebo is so athletic, he turns it into a first down. To go alongside these checkdowns, it was nice to see Purdy becoming more conservative as the game became more in San Francisco's hands. In the last couple of years, Purdy would take some risks that weren't necessarily necessary, but now headed into year 3, it appears Purdy has a deeper understanding of how to manage a game as a quarterback. I'm not saying he's a game manager, but it's very important your quarterback knows when and when not to take risks, and it appears Purdy does. So while these are continual improvements to Purdy's game, I would say his biggest improvement from year 2 to year 3 is his willingness to take off. On this play action pass, for instance, Purdy is first keeping his eyes down the field, and while he might have use check open, he is actually in a better position to pick up and run it for himself. So he does just that and is actually able to move the chains and pick up the first down for San Francisco. While Purdy has always been pretty sneakily athletic, he's made it an emphasis this offseason to make this part of his game, and going forward, this is going to put a lot more pressure on the defense because now Purdy needs to be accounted for. So while Purdy is promising headed into year 3, there are still pretty big challenges he needs to face. Perhaps most notably is the play of his offensive line. Throughout this entire year, expect Colin McKivitz to give up tons of pressures and sacks to Brock Purdy. This isn't going to change, and Purdy is going to have to overcome this. To go alongside that, Purdy and Ayuk must get on the same page, and Purdy must regain his trust in Ayuk. On this sack, for instance, it appears Purdy is actually reading Brandon Ayuk being wide open, but rather than throw it up there like we've seen countless times in the past, he decides to hold on to it and almost tries to target Debo. Or on this play, Brock Purdy is reading Brandon Ayuk come open on this out pattern, but once again, rather than throwing to him, he goes back to Debo Samuel and tries to make an even more challenging throw. So while there were a lot of positives to Purdy's first outing this season, there were also some clear weaknesses he needed to work on. But ultimately, going into year 3, I believe Purdy will continue to prove he's one of the best quarterbacks across the entire NFL. But now, I want to hear what you think of Purdy headed into year 3, and it would also mean a ton to me if you could like and subscribe. And as always, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day.